Ever get that feeling? Like you want to be on top of things, informed, see what's coming, but there's just so much out there. It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, totally. It's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes, right?
Exactly. But what if we could cut through all that and get really strategic? You ever see that documentary, Magnus?
Oh, yeah, about Magnus Carlsen, the chess grandmaster.
Yeah. That part where they showed him thinking like 15 moves ahead. 15. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. What gets me, though, isn't just the number, but the foresight. Seeing the chain reaction of decisions, that's powerful stuff.
And that's what we're diving into today, that level of thinking, but, off the chessboard, in the real world.
Exactly. Bringing it into our everyday lives, our careers, our businesses, making smarter choices.
Which brings us to Patrick Bet-David's Your Next 5 Moves.
And don't worry, you don't need to be a chess whiz for this one.
No, not at all. The book uses tons of business examples to show how this strategic thinking actually works.
So for you listening, think of this deep dive as our mission to pull out the really actionable stuff.
Exactly. How to think ahead, how to build a rock-solid sense of self-awareness.
How to put together those winning teams, how to handle growth, even chaos, and make decisions that actually get you to your goals.
And do it without drowning in information, right?
And what really struck me was how widely applicable this all is. Bet-David brings in examples from everywhere.
I know, right? Military strategists, poker players, business icons like Warren Buffett.
It proves that strategic thinking is for everyone, any field.
Okay, so let's break this down. The first thing that jumped out at me was this whole idea of thinking beyond the immediate, looking several steps ahead.
Yeah, that's key. It's the difference between reacting and being truly strategic.
Yeah.
The book talks about one-move thinking, where people are just reacting often out of ego or fear.
Like that example, the top salesperson who threatens to quit. A non-strategic response is to just fly off the handle, right?
Exactly, or to just write them off completely.
Right.
But the book contrasts that with what they call the practical strategist.
Right. And they're thinking bigger picture, even in the face of a threat like that. What are the reasons? What's the impact? What are the counter moves?
And it's important to remember, the stakes in business are different from a game like chess.
Right. It's not just bragging rights. We're talking potentially millions, even billions of dollars.
That raises the importance of this forward-thinking strategic planning.
Big time. And it brings up this point about sequence. You can't jump to some brilliant 5th move without the first 4.
Exactly. You can't put the roof on before the foundation, right?
Perfect analogy. They use the example of quitting your job. For some, that's move 4, if they've got savings, a plan.
But for someone with a family, no safety net, quitting is not move 1. The book talks about entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship?
Yeah, like being an entrepreneur, but within your current company, innovating from within.
Interesting. So for that person with family obligations, maybe their first few moves are about creating a better role within their current company. That makes a lot of sense. It's not always about that huge leap, right? Sometimes it's those smaller, well-planned steps.
And, this applies whether you're a CEO or just starting out.
I was going to say, it's not just for entrepreneurs or top execs.
No CFO, freelancer. These principles are valuable at every level.
And it really ties back into what we were saying about gaining knowledge effectively. Strategic thinking gives you that framework.
To evaluate information, plan your actions, and really increase your chances of success.
Without getting lost in the weeds.
So thinking several moves ahead, that's key takeaway number 1.
Okay, so we need to look beyond the immediate, but where does that even begin?
Well, the book makes a big point that it all starts with self-awareness. They actually call it move 1.
Move 1, self-awareness.
And this is crucial. The author asks this central question: who do you want to be?
And they say, until you can answer that honestly, nothing else matters strategically.
You have to understand your values, your goals, your motivations at the deepest level.
Which, let's be honest, isn't always easy to figure out.
Oh, absolutely not. It's a journey, right? You don't just have all the answers overnight.
It's this constant self-discovery, this self-assessment.
And to illustrate, the author tells this story about when they took a job at Bally Total Fitness.
Bally Total Fitness, okay.
Their goal wasn't just to work there. They wanted to get noticed, learn the business, and eventually transition into Hollywood.
So even though it wasn't their dream job, it was a stepping stone.
Exactly. It shows the importance of having a direction, even if the steps seem unconnected to your ultimate ambition.
What I found powerful was how they talked about using pain and negative experiences as fuel.
Oh yeah, that's huge. Like Elon Musk's father, sometimes discouraging him. Or Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school team.
Talk about motivation.
Right. The author even shares their own experience with a guidance counselor in high school who basically said their parents should feel sorry for them.
Wow.
Instead of getting discouraged, they use that as fuel to prove that counselor wrong.
That's incredible.
So it's about reframing those negatives into challenges you're going to overcome.
So is that where this future truth concept comes in?
Yeah, future truth. It's living in the present as if your goals have already happened.
Okay, like manifesting, but more action-based.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They talk about Thomas J. Watson, the founder of IBM. He had this incredibly clear vision for what IBM would become, and he made every decision based on that future vision.
It's like having that unwavering belief and letting it dictate your actions.
Exactly. Like JFK and his goal of landing a man on the moon.
That's a perfect example. That vision drove a massive effort and became this huge moment in history.
And it shows the power of that unwavering belief.
I love that they also talk about this mentoring vault in the book.
The painting, right?
Yes, with figures like Einstein, JFK, Marcus Aurelius.
And an empty seat for a future mentor. That's such a cool idea.
It is. It's like this constant visual reminder of who they aspire to be.
It keeps them present in their daily life.
And of course, they bring in these timeless quotes. Aristotle on knowing yourself.
Ralph Ellison on finding freedom through self-discovery.
Lao Tzu on the wisdom within.
It shows you that this self-reflection, it's been important for centuries.
I like that anecdote about the guy named Sean.
Oh, the one who realized success wasn't about being Jeff Bezos or Richard Branson.
Yes. It was about being home for dinner with his family.
That really brings it home that success is personal. It's your own definition.
Absolutely. So how do we actually get started with this self-discovery?
Well, they offer a very practical tool. They call it the personal identity audit.
An audit for your identity, huh?
Yeah. It's basically a series of questions to help you dig deep, find your purpose, your values, what matters most to you.
Okay, that makes sense. And then this ties into the big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG.
The BHAG, straight from built to last.
Exactly. And the author shares how they set their own BHAG early on.
500,000 agents to insurance carriers, wasn't it?
That's the one. And they talk about the feedback they got, specifically from Kathy Larson.
Ah, yes, Kathy Larson. Her feedback was about ensuring your vision connects with your current reality and that you have a credible path to achieve it.
Which makes sense. Even if your vision is amazing, you need to connect it to the present.
Exactly. It's not just about dreaming big, it's about having a plan to get there.
Yeah.
So, move one, cultivating that deep self-awareness, it's the foundation for everything that follows. It's that big aha moment of truly knowing yourself.
Okay, so we've built that foundation. What's the next strategic move?
Well, according to your next 5 moves, it's all about strategic career selection. They call it Move 2.
Move 2. All right, so we're taking that self-awareness and using it to make informed career choices.
Exactly. You're looking at your strengths, weaknesses, your goals, and you're choosing the right arena to compete in.
So it's not just about going after any opportunity that pops up.
Nope. They use this great analogy from poker game selection.
Okay, I like that. Choosing the right game where you have the best odds of winning.
Exactly. Based on your skills, your talents, the competition.
So choosing where you're most likely to succeed based on who you are.
Precisely. And they bring back this idea of entrepreneurship here.
Right, that we talked about before, building something within an existing company.
They highlight Steve Ballmer's success at Microsoft. He built incredible wealth and influence without ever starting his own company.
That's a great example. And what about that 20% time thing at Google?
Oh, yeah, that's another great one. Google encourages employees to work on passion projects.
And that led to things like Google News and Gmail.
Exactly. It's a company actively fostering entrepreneurship.
The author talks about a time they were at a company where that kind of spirit wasn't encouraged.
And they ended up leaving, right? Because their ideas weren't valued.
Exactly. It shows how a company's culture can make or break whether they keep innovative people.
And this is important. They say that not making a move is also a move.
Okay, so inaction can be strategic too.
Exactly. They give this example of a company where the good people kept leaving because their ideas were shot down.
So sometimes the most strategic move is to change your environment.
Exactly. If it's holding you back, you got to move on.
It's like that book Blue Ocean strategy, right?
Yeah. Don't try to beat the competition at their own game. Find a blue ocean where you can create new demand.
They used the example of the insurance industry in 2007.
Right. The old ways of marketing weren't working anymore. Millennials were rising. Smartphones were everywhere.
And the do not call registry was changing things up too.
Exactly. It created this opportunity for the companies that were willing to adapt.
But even with all the tech, They make this point about some things needing a personal touch.
Like life insurance. You still need that face-to-face to build trust.
And it's interesting they mention how expensive insurance keywords are on Google.
Yeah, it shows that human interaction still matters, even in a digital world.
So move 2 is all about making smart choices about where you compete, using your strengths to your advantage.
Exactly. Choosing the right game where your talents can really shine.
Okay, so we figured out who we are, where we want to compete. What's next?
Well, move 3 is all about mastering team building.
Team building, of course. You can't do everything yourself.
Right. And they start by debunking this myth of the solopreneur.
Oh, yeah, the lone wolf entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. They make it clear that no matter how talented you are, you're going to lose to a team.
Makes sense. A team can accomplish so much more.
Right. And building a team, it's not just about offering a paycheck. Especially early on, you need to offer more than that.
It's about creating an environment where people feel valued.
Exactly. Where they see opportunities to grow alongside you. They ask this question: if people get closer to you, will they win?
I like that. It's like, are you helping the people around you succeed?
Right. Do you have a resume of success stories of people you've impacted?
That's a good way to think about it.
And they talk about this concept of a consigliere.
A consigliere, like in The Godfather.
Well, kinda. It's more like a trusted advisor, someone with different skills but similar values.
Okay, so not necessarily someone giving you advice on, taking care of business.
No. More like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Or Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak.
So someone to challenge your thinking, give you a different perspective.
Exactly. They talk about Patty McCord at Netflix, how she would challenge Reed Hastings directly.
That's valuable, having someone who's not afraid to push back.
Absolutely. And they share a personal example with Mario, their video editor. He's their real-life consigliere.
And that's cool. But they also caution against assuming you really know people.
Right. They tell this story about Donnie Brasco, the FBI agent who infiltrated the mob.
It shows that people can have hidden agendas, and you need to do your research.
Exactly. Due diligence is crucial, especially when you're building your inner circle.
The author also talks about their experience leaving a company that didn't value their ambition for equity.
That's a good point. Talented people want to feel ownership. They want to have a real stake.
And they give a great example of how incentivizing key employees can lead to big profits.
Right. The story about Johnny and how his contributions directly increased profit.
Makes a strong case for rewarding your top performers.
Absolutely. Now, of course, building a team also involves letting people go sometimes.
Right. That's never easy.
They talk about firing gently as a key leadership skill.
Firing gently? Okay.
Yeah. Treating it like ending a relationship with respect and not using those dismissive cliches.
Because those departing employees can impact your reputation, especially with social media.
Exactly. Be direct and clear, but don't burn bridges. You never know what the future holds.
Now, beyond individual hiring and firing, they talk about establishing principles.
The company's guiding values. The author shares how they created their list with their wife in Hawaii.
That's nice.
It highlights the importance of intentionally building an ethical framework for your business.
So these principles become your standards, and they dictate how you handle unethical behavior.
Right, like the rogue agent example. You can't compromise your values, even for a top performer.
They also advocate for creating friction within the organization.
Friction.
Yeah, encouraging people to call out behavior that goes against the company principles.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't matter how senior you are. If you're doing something wrong, it gets called out.
Exactly. And they also talk about positive backtalk.
Backtalk? That doesn't sound positive.
No. It's like praising people behind their back, creating a culture of appreciation.
Oh, that makes sense.
They use an interesting analogy here. Prenuptial agreements.
Prenuptial agreements for business.
Yeah, it's like you plan for the worst, but you hope for the best.
I get it. So you're prepared if things go south, but it doesn't mean you expect them to.
They share a story about Danny, a former colleague, and this concept of being temporarily hated but permanently loved.
Meaning, sometimes you have to push people, even if they don't like it at the time.
Because it's for their own good, their growth.
Exactly. Long term, they'll appreciate it. Then there's the trust pendulum and the 4 levels of trust.
Oh yeah, from acquaintance to running mate.
It shows how trust is built gradually over time.
And when it comes to motivation, they talk about the platinum rule.
Not the golden rule.
No, this one's about doing unto others as they would have done to them.
So it's about understanding their individual needs, right?
Exactly. Their love languages, their hot buttons, what motivates them, what demotivates them.
And they talk about different ways to praise people. Privately, publicly, even behind their back.
It's all about tailoring your approach to the individual.
Exactly. And remember, they say trust leads to speed.
Because when you trust your team, things move faster.
And it comes back to seeing your employees as human beings, understanding what drives them.
Okay, so we've built this awesome team. Now how do we grow?
Well, move 4 is all about strategic scaling.
Scaling up the operation.
Exactly. And they start by acknowledging that raising capital is different in every industry.
Like tech versus more traditional businesses.
They also emphasize that organic growth using your own profits is a valid path.
So you don't always have to seek outside investment.
Right. And they share those stories about Jack Ma pitching Alibaba and Bezos struggling to raise money for Amazon.
It shows you the landscape of fundraising can be very different.
And before you even think about raising money, they give you 10 crucial questions to ask yourself.
Like, how much control are you willing to give up? Are you ready for the added accountability?
Those are big ones to consider.
They also talk about mentors and how they can connect you to investors.
But you have to be prepared when those introductions come.
Do your homework. Be ready to impress.
They then break down the owner or CEO's responsibilities into 4 key areas: operating systems, business development, innovative campaigns, and leadership development.
Okay, so a framework for where to focus your energy as you scale.
Exactly. And they say that even though it's not flashy, improving your operating systems can save you a lot of money.
They use that ITR example, right?
Yep. And they talk about those next innovative campaigns that lead to huge growth.
Like Bally's zero down payment, Continental's on-time bonus, and of course, Amazon Prime.
Those are game changers for sure.
When it comes to leadership, they share their own method of applying pressure by asking questions.
Instead of just giving orders, right?
Exactly. Holding people accountable to their own goals.
It makes people think more deeply and take ownership.
Which brings us to setting your lions free.
Ah, yes. Empowering your top performers. They might be demanding, but they get results.
Like the Rob Parson example in the book.
Exactly. You got to understand these key players and unleash their potential.
But throughout it all, they emphasize the importance of caring about your people.
Knowing their dreams, their goals, creating a supportive environment.
Because your team is your most valuable asset. And they address the feeling of panic that can come with rapid growth.
Oh yeah, it can get chaotic.
And they actually encourage you to lean into those moments.
They even talk about overdosing on speed.
Overdosing on speed? What does that even mean?
It's about prioritizing execution and efficiency without sacrificing quality.
Like Toyota's rapid problem solving or McDonald's speed in the fast food industry?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they also warn about pitfalls, like poor financial management, which they illustrate with the Romeo example.
And not planning for future needs like office space as you grow.
They also use the example of Morton Downey Jr., that cautionary tale.
Oh, right, his rise and fall. It's a reminder that momentum isn't always sustainable if it's not managed.
And they talk about vice management, watching out for those 4 Gs.
Girls, gambling, greed, God complex.
It's about staying grounded and not letting success go to your head.
They also warn against letting the wrong people influence your decisions.
People with agendas, limited perspectives, consultants, spouses, even friends.
And the temptation of fast money shortcuts.
Right. Integrity is key for long-term growth.
Yeah.
They define momentum as mass times velocity.
Okay, so it's about managing both the size and the speed of your growth.
Exactly. And they compare chaos to waves for a surfer.
Dangerous, but rideable if you know what you're doing.
Exactly. They emphasize using data and logic to anticipate the future.
Or hiring someone who can do that for you. They use the example of Michael Burry betting against the housing market.
He saw it coming, based on data.
They contrast that with Bill Belichick and Bill Walsh.
Belichick, the coaching genius, versus Walsh, who created systems that could be replicated.
So it's valuable to have systems, not just rely on individual brilliance.
And finally, they talk about using data to find leaks in your business, those inefficiencies.
And to identify trends in your performance.
Like tracking policy application times or analyzing seasonality in sales.
And they show how data can help you address performance issues by finding the root cause.
Like the example with Paul and Chris's sales numbers. Data help them find the X factor.
So move 4, it's about building the infrastructure, the team, and the insights to not only handle growth, but thrive in it.
Exactly. It's about scaling strategically, not just growing for the sake of growing.
All right, we've come to the final stage outlined in the book. Mastering power plays, or Move 5.
This is all about maintaining your edge, staying ahead, and using your influence effectively.
It's the end game, right, where all the previous moves come together.
Exactly. And they start strong by emphasizing the need to stay paranoid.
Paranoid.
Yeah. They quote Andy Grove, Intel's CEO. He said, "Only the paranoid survive."
Okay, so it's about never getting complacent, always being on the lookout.
Exactly. They make this bold statement, business is war.
Business is war.
And any peace is an illusion. They point to how many of the original Fortune 500 companies are gone now.
Because they got comfortable, they stopped innovating.
They lost their edge.
So the message is, every day is urgent, you have to keep pushing.
Exactly. And to drive that point home, they tell the story of Rick, a lawyer whose life and career were ruined by one bad decision.
One bad decision.
Yeah, he got involved with drugs, cocaine specifically. And it was because he wasn't prepared for the pressures of success.
It's a good reminder that success can be dangerous if you're not careful.
Exactly. Then they give you 3 tactics for staying centered. Make friends with Murphy's Law, accept losses, and manage your ego while building alliances.
Making friends with Murphy's Law, meaning?
It means anticipating the worst-case scenarios, planning for them.
So you're not caught off guard if things go wrong.
Right. And then there's accepting losses, knowing you can't win every time.
It's about learning from your mistakes and moving on.
And finally, managing your ego and building alliances.
Okay, alliances. They give some great examples of that.
Like Steve Jobs reaching out to Bill Gates and Amazon partnering with Toys R Us during the dot-com bust.
It's interesting. Sometimes your biggest rival can become your strongest ally.
Absolutely. They also talk about seeking out mentors with different levels of expertise.
Different levels.
Yeah. Someone who understands the theory, some who's witnessed similar situations, and someone with practical application in your field.
So you're getting well-rounded advice from different angles.
Precisely. And for those going up against a bigger competitor, they have a whole section on beating Goliath.
Beating Goliath. That's perfect. So what are their tips?
They say know your weaknesses and Goliaths. Be nimble, innovative, and control the narrative.
Control the narrative. That's a powerful one.
Right. It's about shaping public perception. They use examples like Phil Knight, Jerry Jones, The Rock, Kevin Hart.
These are people who are masters of their own image.
Exactly. And it ties back to aligning your brand with your vision. They use the evolution of their own YouTube channel as an example.
So you're consistently telling your story and showing people who you are.
They also talk about turning off the noise.
Meaning?
All the negativity, the gossip, the clickbait. It's about focusing on what matters.
It's easy to get distracted by all that stuff.
They even share a personal story about abstaining from sex until they made their first million.
Whoa. Okay. That's extreme.
It was their way of maintaining focus and discipline.
I get it. It's about removing distractions and going all in on your goal.
They also talk about speaking your story into existence and then backing it up with actions.
So words and actions have to be aligned.
Then there's the concept of incremental growth. They use the analogy of bench pressing. You don't start with the heaviest weight. You add a little bit at a time.
So you're consistently making progress, even if it's small.
And you avoid comparing yourself to those who are much further along.
That's important. It's easy to get discouraged when you look at where other people are.
And at this stage, they emphasize zero margin for error.
Yeah.
Cutting out anything that holds you back.
No room for mistakes.
Exactly. And then they have this whole section about learning from mobsters.
Mobsters. Seriously.
Yeah. They say they have valuable insights into selling, negotiating, and influencing.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
They talk about their risk-taking, their negotiation skills, their understanding of human nature.
So they break it down into these 7 essential steps to prepare for a meeting.
Like a mobster's guide to negotiation. They even use Michael Corleone as an example.
The steps are all about understanding the other party's needs, fears, and motivations.
Anticipating their responses, role-playing different scenarios.
And they share their own experience using these steps in a tough meeting with insurance executives.
It's about being prepared, knowing your audience, and addressing their concerns.
So it's strategic, not just about strong-arming people.
Exactly. They then talk about how sales is about conviction and transferring feeling.
Not just slick talk and manipulation.
They share a story from Zig Ziglar, the legendary salesman.
It's about believing in what you're selling and getting the other person to believe in it too.
And they say negotiation is about leverage, but you got to be careful not to overplay your hand.
They quote Amarillo Slim, the poker player. You can shear a sheep many times, but you can only skin him once. So it's about finding a win-win, not just taking everything you can get.
They even say it's sometimes better to let others think your ideas are theirs.
That's a subtle power move.
They give an example from the hedge fund world.
So the mobster section, it's all about preparation, strategy, and creating deals that benefit everyone.
Exactly. And they talk about personal power, how it comes from having options.
Options give you leverage.
And helping others without expecting anything in return. They tell the story of Richie and that unexpected $30 million connection that came years later.
That's the long game, right?
Exactly. And they use the example of Steve Kerr coaching Team USA under Greg Popovich.
He took a lesser role to learn from the best.
And it paid off big time.
It's about recognizing the value of serving and learning from greatness.
They bring back the 4 areas that drive people: advancement, individuality, madness, and purpose.
And they talk about how to lead people who are motivated by each of these things.
Because your job as a leader isn't to fix people, it's to understand and guide them.
So remember those 4 areas, they're your guide to leading effectively.
Align your test pieces, your team, to maximize their potential.
That's a great way to think about it. So wrapping up our deep dive into your next 5 moves.
The big takeaway is that strategic thinking is key.
It starts with self-awareness, involves planning, team building, and adaptability.
And it helps you navigate the complexities of business and life.
You've learned how to think several moves ahead, just like Magnus Carlsen, using the principles from this book.
And as a final thought, consider this. With all the emphasis on anticipating future moves and potential threats, what's one seemingly small trend in your field or in your life that you might need to start planning for right now?
Even if it seems insignificant at the moment, what could it turn into? And how can you prepare for it?
Based on everything we've discussed, what are your next 5 moves?
That's the challenge we leave you with. Take these lessons, apply them, and continue your journey of growth.
Strategic thinking, it's a lifelong pursuit.
And it can make all the difference in achieving your goals.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep growing, and keep thinking ahead.
And we'll see you on our next deep dive.